AskReddit, deep-sea fishermen, ocean freighter workers, naval personnel, etc. What is the strangest, creepiest thing you have seen out on the job? Part 1. I've been on large container ships up and down the coast here. Whenever you're in the middle of a storm, it's quite exciting. It's hard to describe the sea in the middle of a storm. The swells get huge and rough. When lightning hits the sea, you see it light up a huge area and start to froth. The scariest, though, is being on the bridge in a trough between two swells and seeing the water rising up on either side of you like a wall. The sea is, in a very real sense, awesome. I've been sailing all my life, and just being out there, out of sight of land, and the weather comes in is an incredible feeling. We live in such sanitized worlds that it can be pretty unnerving to be at the mercy of an uncontrollable force. One of the strangest, most beautiful things to see is when there are dolphins swimming around the ship at night and there is bioluminescence. If there's no light pollution or moonlight, all you can see is ghostly trails of the light in the water and hear something breathing in the water below you. Where in the world might this happen? Genuinely curious. Mosquito Bioluminescent Bay in Vieques, Puerto Rico. It is one of the most bioluminescent bodies of water in the world, and it's awesome. My tour allowed us to swim in the water at night. The fish leave trails as they dart about, and the ray fins leave squiggles. One of the coolest things I've ever seen or done. On the Pacific side of South America, I believe we were off the coast of Peru or Chile. Can't quite remember. I was working the night shift, so I was on the flight deck to watch the sun come up. Strangest thing I've ever seen. The ocean was dead calm like a lake. Seriously, no ripples, no waves, just dead calm. Like you found a small pond up in the mountains that was completely undisturbed. The moon was bright in the sky, still as the sun had not yet begun to rise, but there was still a lot of light from it. The moon made it feel all the more eerie. And besides the noise from the ship, it was completely silent. One of the weirdest experiences I've ever felt. I was caught in an electrical storm while fishing. This was in Lake Ontario, running 8-foot graphite rods on downriggers. I was standing on the deck watching the rods, and I noticed blue sparks start jumping from rod to rod. A split second later, lightning struck directly behind the boat. That was probably the loudest natural sound I will ever hear in my life. Can you compare the sound of that to a gunshot? I have shot lots of guns, the loudest likely being my .22 250 or my dad's .300 Win Mag. Those make my ears ring a bit, but with no ear protection. This not only had my ears ringing so badly I lost sleep over it, but I could feel the sound rip through me. This story is terrifying and awesome at the same time. I enjoy sailing and like to take long trips on my uncle's boat. We usually tried to sail along the east or west coast of the US, but one year he was stationed in Japan, and I got the opportunity to travel to Japan. Great place to visit. I was sailing by the coast of Okinawa when a thunderstorm started up in the middle of the night. Strangely, the ocean was completely still, and the weather was giving us a wonderful light show. Lightning would strike the water and light up everything around us. Suddenly, lightning struck near our boat, and we saw the most incredible sight. Jellyfish. Jellyfish everywhere. These were not the usual jellyfish that you see around the US. These things were huge. The lightning would strike the water, and the jellyfish would light up. The ocean literally looked like it was glowing purple and red that night. Nothing that cool, but we were headed offshore to go fishing once, and there were thousands of cabbage head jellyfish. Apparently, per wiki, these are actually cannonball jellyfish in the water. As far as you could see, they were floating along, but since the waves were 4 to 6 feet, it felt like any time you hit a wave wrong, it could throw one into the boat. When I was younger, my dad and I went deep-sea fishing all the time. The creepiest thing that ever happened to me was when we decided to do a little more surface fishing further out on the open ocean, rather than fish for grouper and whatnot. So I'm sitting with my feet off the edge of the boat, and my dad hooks a fish. It seems pretty big, based on the way it was pulling, so I look over to see if he needs help. Then something slowly brushes my legs. I look down and there was a 4 to 5 foot barracuda brushing against my legs. I froze, and seconds later it shot off. When my dad felt the line go slack, he started reeling in faster. The barracuda had bitten off most of the fish. It was only a mouth on a hook, really. Pretty creepy. Same thing happened fishing out in the Gulf Stream. Departed from Duck, North Carolina, I think. We were catching mahi and I finally landed one. Got in the seat thingy, reeling it in. I then heard the captain say, "Barracuda!" He was on the top of the boat and had a better view, I guess. The line goes slack, and I reel in a very nice mahi head. I'm in the U.S. Coast Guard, and I recently was assigned to a ship. I was going through our logbooks to look up something and noticed that on the bridge, an unknown blue light was observed beneath the water's surface the night before. This intrigued me, so I started looking through more of the logs. Apparently, every 2 to 3 weeks, they enter lights of varying colors in the places you would not expect. Usually white, red, or green lights are on the horizon or in the sky, ships and aircraft. But they seem to report colored lights under the water, sometimes moving around, sometimes stationary. Lights in the sky moving at extreme speeds, then immediately stopping or disappearing altogether. Sometimes lights are visible to the naked eye, but when we try to look at it with FLIR or night vision, they are undetectable. I don't know, not that creepy, but was pretty interesting to me. During my time in the Navy, we once transited through the Bermuda Triangle at night. Being the Navy, there was plenty of people playing on the whole eeriness of our location as it was. But at one point, I stepped outside to have a look. It is typically quite dark on a Navy ship in the middle of the ocean at night, so it was quite a shock to see the water actually glowing green where we were. It looked a lot like we were sailing through an ocean full of chemicals you find in light sticks. It's pretty wild to see, especially in the triangle. I found out later that it was most likely bioluminescence from plankton in the water. The plankton are so cool. I had the opportunity to swim in it once. The plankton only glow when disturbed, so by treading water, you glow green. By making a splash, you make a splash of thousands of tiny green swimming lightning bugs. When I was stationed on the USS Underwood and we were in the Persian Gulf, the water was as flat as glass. We were just streaming along, no land anywhere in sight, and we pass a sheep bobbing in the water. There wasn't a ship to be seen, but there was a sheep in the ocean. We all had a laugh. Livestock ships, which are usually converted car carriers, carry thousands of sheep and/or cattle. Odds are that a few of these animals will die during the passage, and when they do, over the side they go. Merchant seaman here. I have traveled worldwide with over 50,000 miles under my belt, having crossed the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans multiple times. The thing I have seen a few times that really creeped me out were whilst on watch at night, and on several occasions witnessed meteorites similar, if not bigger, to the ones caught on dash cams in Russia. Also seemingly close to the ship, even audible to the human ear if outside on the bridge wings. Spectacular sights, but also kind of terrifying. I was coming on watch on the 2000 hour to 0100 hour, and the captain, old man, was covering the first mate's watch, as he had a long night with draft survey stability calculations. I remembered I'd left my laundry down in the dryer and asked the captain if he would excuse me to go and grab my laundry, one deck down. He agreed, and I went down to the laundry for 2 minutes to put my clothes in my cabin, and by the time I got back to the bridge, the old man exclaimed, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" I said, "No, Captain, see what?" Apparently, a meteor flew across the ship's bow, not too far from us. In the 100 years of his and the lookout's combined years at sea, they both said they had never seen anything like it. I was kicking myself. If I stayed, I would have witnessed something amazing. Nothing particularly specific. I've been sailing all of my life and have somewhere around 6,000 sea miles, as well as years and years of inland dinghy racing experience. The sea just does strange things sometimes. Wind against tide and underwater obstacles causing weird currents create unnatural waves, and it starts to feel like the sea is just throwing water at you at random. Fog at sea at night really messes up your senses too. Everything is quiet and you can't see anything but the boat immediately around you. You keep looking for lights on other ships and listening for fog horns or the sound of engines in the distance, and your brain starts playing all manner of tricks on you. In a busy shipping lane, it is a serious business, and in a very real way, it could be life or death if you miss a ship that hits you and sinks you. You start to see lights everywhere around you. You start hearing engines creeping up on you. You stop your boat and cut the engine to see if you're hearing anything real, and you enter an even stranger world of sensory deprivation. It's very eerie. It's one thing to be surrounded by water on all sides, but it's another to be surrounded by water on all sides and being barely able to see it. This was maybe 10 years ago, and I was sailing with my family, moving a sailboat from the Connecticut shore to Boston, and this happened on an extremely foggy day. I also remember the day being pretty windless as well, so we were just motoring along instead of sailing. Now, the general procedure for sailing in such thick fog is to use radar and foghorns to try to prevent any collisions from happening. At some point, we started hearing huge, loud horn blasts, just repeating from somewhere to our right in the fog. It seemed normal enough, someone signaling their position to anyone in the vicinity. Then after maybe 15 or 20 minutes of sailing and listening to these horn blasts, we eventually came upon what was making them. Maybe 100 feet from our boat, a huge submarine appeared, and it looked like it's just sitting still. The weird thing was the suddenness of its appearance. Maybe not the creepiest thing in this thread, but an enormous black shape appearing out of the fog at sea was pretty creepy to me at the time. Probably asking about ocean-related crazy stuff, but was on an aircraft carrier. No flight operations. I was the junior guy that had to sit around and watch the radar, CNN, Basic Instinct on continuous loop. I noticed a blip, which was no big deal. Either commercial or a French carrier, Foch, had something go on. However, the next blip showed it had traveled quite a distance. At 7 seconds per sweep, it was running over 2,000 miles per hour. My first thought was that it was an SR-71 type, but my radar was for ATC. That thing would have had to be pretty low for me to see it, 50,000 feet tops. The next return verified the speed. It was the fourth one that qualifies as creepy. The aircraft had turned 90 degrees, was headed south, then turned east. We had planes that could run that fast, but nothing that could turn that fast. That I'm aware of, early 90s. Another sweep of it, and it was gone. Buddy of mine in the CDC, Combat Direction Center, saw the same thing. Both of us were pretty excited about it, reported it up, and they blew it off. So, I don't know about cow mutilation or alien abductions, things like that, but I am absolutely convinced I saw a UFO. I remember flipping over to the plot page on the CCTV. We were at 41 North, 17, 36 East. Technically speaking, what you saw was the definition of a UFO.